This episode is brought to you by Voco Hotels by IHG, where you should prepare to be charmed. From Chicago to Myrtle Beach to Saranac Lake, each Voco in the U.S. has its own local flavor and unique detail. Our hosts welcome you with little extras, and you'll find rooms for catching up on me time and full-service bars and restaurants that are perfect for us time. Come on in and live the Voco life and book your next stay at vocohotels.com. VOCO hotels.com.
Welcome to episode 77 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg. I'm the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site, where we believe that every student and recent grad deserves a great career and that it should be easy and inexpensive for employers to hire them. I'm very excited about today's episode, but I'm not going to steal the thunder this time. Instead, I'm going to be polite and I'm going to hand it over to Jeanette to say hello and welcome our guest.
Hello, you're always polite, Stephen. So, hi, everyone. Jeanette Leeds, as you know me, HR tech entrepreneur, and we are here today with JT O'Donnell, and she is the founder and CEO of Work It Daily. So welcome. So happy to have you here today, JT.
Thank you, Stephen and Jeanette. This should be fun. I'm ready.
So for episode 77, we have as a topic, for those who saw the post before, why employer I can't even say this. I can't even speak today.
It's not St. Patrick's Day, Jeanette. What's going on?
And I've had like 4 cups of coffee, so I don't know. I think everyone always talks about so important for employers to be authentic, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to be who you are. You don't want to pretend to be something else. So like, I know we were talking beforehand, the green room, that you were just on Chad and Cheese podcast talking about this. You were at LinkedIn Connect, was that last week? And that was a big topic you spoke about. What the heck does that mean? And aside from the fact that like, I can't even pronounce it. So fill us in, like what is this all about?
Yeah. So I saw this trend a while back, and I think I'm really lucky in the sense that I work with job seekers every day.
Yeah.
And I've watched the rise of AI on both sides, right? So when you think about what's happening, it's incredible. We had this idea that employers needed to be authentic, starting maybe a decade ago. The employer branding specialists that are on here will chime in and correct me, but we realized pretty quickly that brands needed to start to reveal more of who they were as an employer as a way to attract talent, right? And I think we all understand that now. But there's a whole different layer that's come into play, which is authentication. And that is validating you are who you say you are, especially in what is right now the biggest white collar job recession we have ever seen. Because the rise of scams and problems are unbelievable. And I think a lot of talent organizations, high volume hiring organizations, don't understand what's happening to the job seeker over there. And so I'm going to give you a great example. When I was at Talent Connect, 1,800 global talent professionals, invitation only, sitting there. And I was lucky enough to be the only person brought in to speak from the point of the job seeker. And I say that because they're very far removed from it.
Yep.
You're very far removed from what's really happening to that job seeker. And so I actually read a post from a job seeker that had gone up 24 hours before I got there to speak about him going through an entire AI generated process, coming from data science, assumed it was completely normal, getting an 8-page job offer, right? Giving all this information in and finding it a little odd that he hadn't spoken to a human yet. Finally swallowed his pride, called the company and said, "Can I talk to HR?" They gave him the email address. He messaged HR, said, "Can I just confirm this offer is real?" Immediately responds back, "No, this is a scam. I've gotten 20 of these today." Okay.
Wow.
So this is a high level individual, had been out of work 10 months, and this is the kind of thing that's happening all the time. And so authentication, we already know you're struggling with authenticating your talent. I get that. You're doing everything you can to authenticate the people applying to you are real. But it is also happening on the other side, which is making talent really, if you aren't authenticating yourself, they're not clicking, they're not applying, they're not engaging because they're so afraid of it.
Fascinating.
So at College Recruiter, we were hiring a bookkeeper. And when you talk about from the employer experience, finding candidates that actually aren't real, they're impersonating somebody else, they're an AI bot or whatever. I'm about 97% sure that one of our finalists for the accounting role was just somebody, and again, it was just like, this is a little bit off, this is a little bit off. There were like a bunch of red flags. And what finally tipped the scales for me was looking her up by name and the address she gave, and the address didn't exist. And her phone number area code was wrong, and she had never lived in that area code. Like there were things like that. And so
Mhm.
we ended up rejecting her, it, him, my dog. I don't know what it was.
Mhm.
So what you're saying, JT, is the same thing is happening in reverse, right? The candidates. So if you're an employer in a high volume kind of environment where you're not like out there like shaking hands and you know this is a real person and they live down the street from you, what can you do to help those candidates see that this in fact is your company, this is in fact your job opportunity?
I think you have to be very intentional about your entire candidate experience and understanding how it lands. So let me give you a beautiful example. Many, many companies right now are using AI tools to create a hyper customized email that goes out to a big batch of candidates.
Yeah.
And they say, hey, I think you're a fit for this job. If you're interested, could you send me your credentials and your availability for an interview? You need to understand that the first time that happens to a job seeker, they drop everything. They drop everything, fill it out, send it back, and then they tell me, JT, I'm getting an interview. We all know the first time they're really being looked at is when they send that information back. And
Mm,
then that company's deciding whether or not they want to interview them.
Right.
So if they decide not to interview them, nothing happens. Do you know what that is to a job seeker? That's ghosting.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
You've just ghosted that candidate, and they're going to tell 17 of their friends about the horrible experience they just had with that company.
Because they have no idea that hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of others got the same email.
That's it. So I have to be the bearer of bad news, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that piece happens. Now let's talk about more of the automation. Hey, you've made it past the first piece and we're sending you on to the hiring manager. Okay? What they heard is I'm getting an interview.
Yeah.
That's not what happens.
Right.
That
Right.
hiring manager is going to look and then decide who to actually call. In the age of authentication, the word is communication.
Mm,
Never before have we had to think about everything we say and everything we do and how it lands in an automated AI generated world. If you don't, it is open for misinterpretation. And that's exactly what's happening through this process with them.
Finding a great career has always been a challenge. But today, with the massive changes underway in just about every sector of the economy, in just about every country in the world, finding a great new career is even more challenging. And if you're a student, recent graduate, or someone else early in their career, it's even harder for you because you just don't have the experience that those who might be 10, 20, 30 years older than you have. The answer? The podcast. From dorms to desks. A podcast by College Recruiter Job Search Site, where every week we take a deep dive into a topic specifically of interest to candidates who are early in their careers and looking for a great part-time, seasonal internship or other entry-level job.
it's so interesting. I'm reminded of these times where you see, I'll see this sometimes on social media and some posts where it's like, oh, so and so is hiring X amount per hour, and it's again, big high volume kind of companies. And it might be Amazon, Walmart, whatever. Like, it's interesting because what we're saying here is that, a lot of times some are very obviously scams and people may be aware of them. But now, because of the personalization through automation and AI is just next level, right?
Mhm.
So you're saying once someone's in the process of being very, very clear in what you're saying and doing, which makes a ton of sense. But any tips, like taking a step back
Mhm.
even earlier from a
Yeah.
candidate side, right? Like, what should they be looking out for? Or again, I mean, as an employer, this is not my content that's going out, right? It's the scammers, it's this or that. Like, is there other ways that you've started to see to combat that? Which is a little tricky, right? Because it's sort of like, how do I stop this, noise that I don't have necessarily control over? But any tips there?
Yeah. So the first thing that I tell people is be really open and honest and promote the fact that you're using AI. Because
Mm,
the truth is, job seekers want it as much as you do.
Mm.
They understand that AI is here to try to make the process faster. So when you're really honest that you're using an AI bot or this is an auto-generated message, but if you message back, this is what's going to happen, that is where you gain the respect.
yep.
Also, make it very clear here's where eventually you will talk to a human.
Right.
Like you can explain the stages and say, for the first 3 stages of this process, you will not be talking to a human. If you get this far, you will be. Just managing their expectations is going to go so far in you getting them to do the things you want to do. And let me tell you why that's important. Because I mentioned the first time that they have that happen to them and they get ghosted or they feel burned, not only do they tell 17 people, every subsequent employer that tries that technique with them, they will not respond to.
Mhm.
So, really great talent. I hear recruiters say to me all the time, I can't get the good ones to respond to me. Yes, because previous employers burned them and now you're paying the price.
Right.
So you're going to have to really get at them and say, look, this is AI, but if you do this and respond, this is what happened next. Or quite frankly, start thinking about certain places where you want to lead with the human interaction and then allow AI to take over. And I know that sounds crazy, but as we really progress with all of these tools this year and this becomes so standard practice, we're going to be able to look at those places where maybe a human or a high touch point could carry so much weight with them that we could get them to do the rest of it. Let me give you a great example. They hate autonomous interviewing, the video interviewing,
Mm.
where I'm sent a link and I get asked questions. I have no control over what I'm being asked. I'm being recorded and I don't know where my likeness is going. I don't know what they're doing with that video. So, very quickly, you're going to see that a big prediction on my end. People might come at me later. That will go away. And instead, are you ready for this? The candidates will produce authenticated video and send it to you. That is going to be a new normal because
Hmm.
that's the new interview. Why do we do interviews? To authenticate somebody is who they say they are. Very quickly, job seekers are going to go, wait, so if I record a bunch of videos answering the 5 most common questions you're going to ask me anyways, and I can send that to you in a URL and you can watch it, that's going to get me in faster. Oh, I'm on board because I'm controlling my brand and my message. So this stuff is going to shift really, really fast. And I think as we'll just get smarter to know which side should do what. But in the interim, you got to be really intentional and clear.
So I think the video interviewing that you're talking about that the candidates really hate is the asynchronous.
Yes.
It's the one way. The recruiter records one video and it's sent out 1,000 times, 100,000 times, or whatever, right? It's kind of the traditional hire view
Well,
type of
yes.
process.
And let's talk about that. I had a client go through it with a company, and there were 5 different positions that he was available for. He had to do it 5 times.
Yeah.
He's like, you can't just take what I did and replace it. Nope.
Yeah. So, which leads me into the 3 least favorite words in the English language, ATS. And so some of that might
What a
be
word.
simply because they're using an ATS and it's not flexible enough for it to share files between
Right.
applications. The end of the day, the employer selects the ATS. The accountability is the employers for stuff like that. But is a strategy that employers should use to bolster their authentication to have candidates apply on the employer's career site, the ATS, versus, say, a job board? Or do you feel like that doesn't matter? Or maybe you feel like, no, you know what, actually the candidate knows ZipRecruiter or Indeed or LinkedIn better than XYZ Corporation. So you're better off having them apply in a job board.
So I'm going to take the liberty of telling you what it's going to look like in 2 years, not 10.
Okay.
Okay.
And I think that this is where ATS platforms need to be really, really careful. So if we understand what's happening, the data that we're getting, right, is not good data. So you
Yeah.
have people making up resumes, making up things about themselves, putting that's garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So that data set by default is not strong. If you know anything about AI, you're hearing a lot about large language models, which is the way AI works really well is when it has a whole language. What's very quickly going to happen with video, because you've heard a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? Well,
Hmm.
video's worth a million. So,
Mm.
with the way the technology is right now, imagine this world. Recruiter and hiring manager record a chat of what they need in this candidate.
And
Okay.
they're talking to each other.
Yeah, they're on
Okay.
they're on Google Chat, right? But it's recorded. Okay.
Okay.
They take that video audio and put it through a tool, and that tool comes up with some clips and tells you exactly what the job is. Think about that. This is what large
Hmm.
language models going to do.
Yep.
An
Yeah.
accurate job description,
Mhm.
right? All there with video clips of the recruiter and the hiring manager talking about it. That becomes, forget job posting, that's the new job entity. Now you've got talent out there. This is going to be a world where you're going to get on your phone and, like a diary, you're going to be like, here's what I did today. Here's what I worked on. Here's what I liked about this or that. That is going to all be stored up and become your living resume, your living document and authentication of who you are. And now this large language model on both sides will sit in a world where the recruiters say, this is who I'm looking for. And it can go out and find that person and match them up. Why is that huge? Because no longer does your resume, which is the history of what you're done, dictate whether or not you can get this job. If you can talk about it and you can validate and authenticate and prove and provide the evidence that you can do it, you will be matched with the job. That's what's going to start to happen in 2 years.
Yeah.
That's what we're already seeing. And I think that's what's been exciting for me. I get it's a little scary, but being on the job seeker technology side and the employer technology
Yeah.
side, and I'm watching what these two sides are doing, this is where it's ending. This is what's happening next. And so my advice to ATS systems is you need to start thinking right now
Mhm.
about how you're going to deal with this new large language model, how you're going to capture that, because all that old content you have isn't accurate. It's not a good source to
Right.
create and leverage the AI tools.
Right. Well, it's so much what you're saying. It's like that snapshot of not just a day in the life of a candidate and the hiring manager and recruiter, right? It's like multiple days, right? It's like
Mhm.
this is what's real. You talk about being completely authentic and like what's real,
Mhm.
like on both sides. It's and then just having AI magically match it up
You nailed it.
And authenticated.
and
There it is.
authenticated.
Authenticated, right? You know they're both real because the technology will be able to validate that. Hey, this isn't a bot. This isn't somebody made up. Hey, they said this in the last 30 days, right? There's so much this is all going to be able to do that ATS can't do right now as it is.
As it
So
stands.
you're going to watch a lot of disruption in the space, and I'm here for it. I am here for the death of the resume. I am.
Wow. So somebody who's going to celebrate at a funeral. That's not it's not something that I thought we were going to get into in this conversation. But JT, it has been, as always, a pleasure. I'm so happy also that that LinkedIn is going to be giving you 25% of the gross revenues on this new
I
product.
wish. I wish.
And if not, I can create a fake document that you can probably get authenticated someplace, and you can go for it. Jeanette is awesome, as always, awesome, and we'll huddle up again in 2 weeks.
Until next time. Thank you, JT. This was great.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank you. Take
JT.
care. Bye
Thanks,
bye.
everyone. Bye.
Cheers.